I'm sailing away, set an open course for the Virgin Sea. Today on the Manspace. Welcome to the Manspace podcast. We're your hosts, Doctors Matt Brown and Rob Porter, and clinical therapist Mike Porter. Ahoy, spacemen. Space mateys. Nope, I still can't ever get on board because I'm super immature with semen.
Yeah. Nope. In fact, there's that one song, Brightly Beams.
Uh-huh.
And in it, they talk about some
struggling
seaman.
Yeah.
And in my head, I can't not hear it.
Dude, I just watched this video that it looked legit. I don't know. It was freaky deaky. It made me never want to eat figs, but I do love fig Newtons.
Fig Newtons are rad.
Yeah, fig Newtons and milk, man. Everyone, my
I've
kids all
never
make
tried
fun
it
of
with
me.
milk.
Even Becky. Becky's like, "Oh, I don't dip them in. It's just it's good to have them together."
It's the chaser.
Yeah, but whenever I eat fig Newtons, everyone in my family's like, "Gross, dude." I'm like, "What? It's just I don't know. It's cakey. It's fruit and cake."
Yeah, it's awesome.
But I watched this thing about figs that said when figs are still like they do get pollinated by these ants, that these flying female ants will go into the bottom of a fig, and it's so tight that their wings get ripped off, but it's okay because they're never coming back out. And inside there, they lay all their eggs inside the fig, and then the male ants come out first, and they go and impregnate with this long kind of extendable, we'll say boy part to keep this episode clean. And they get the females pregnant. And then then they all come out. The males come out and basically kind of sacrifice themselves so that the females can make it out. The females then fly out and go do it to another fig. And I was like, what? So like the stuff in the middle there,
eating a bunch of
eating ant eggs?
Ant eggs?
Now I got to look this up because.
Do you really want to know though? It might stop you from eating fig Newtons.
I was watching a video on it. It was fascinating. Do ants fertilize figs? This says no.
I was going to say, honestly, what you're describing doesn't seem like ants fertilizing it. It seems like ants using it as a house, like as a nest.
That's true. And not fertilizing, but yeah, that's true.
So yeah, the answer would be no. Did they have any like actual footage of ants?
But I don't maybe
coming out of a fig.
Yes,
I guess AI could have created it.
Who knows? Yeah, it could have been AI created. You can't trust anything anymore. Don't worry, spacemen, if you're wondering, or you can come on for all our fig aficionados and tell me like, Rob, you're an idiot. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. I'd have to see this video again. I must know. It doesn't matter. I'll move on. Here's what we're talking about today, Mike, and maybe we'll get out of here.
I'm ready.
Because we're supposed to have some massive thunderstorms that come through. We'll see. Spencer's supposed to go to Young Men's Camp. It could be hilarious.
Well, Macy was driving home from Green the other night.
Uh-huh.
She decided she didn't want to drive 35, so she took 130.
Uh-huh.
But it was like 130 south of Buda, right? So before it connects to 45 again. So there's like hardly any streetlights, which there's not a lot of streetlights on 130
Buda,
anyway.
Mike. Buda.
What?
It's Buda.
Oh, I said Buda.
You've forgotten.
I did. Okay. No, that's funny because I was talking to someone about it yesterday, I guess. And I called it the right thing.
No.
And I thought it sounded completely stupid when I said it.
Yeah,
and Buda. It does sound completely stupid, just like Maynard.
I know. And Elgin and Lamisa and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, continue.
Nacogdoches. It's not they're like, I don't even get that one. Anyway, or Guadalupe, idiots. Sorry to all of our Texas listeners, but you have really bad Spanish. Anyway,
it's superior Spanish. They're like, no, you're going to do it our way. It's Guadalupe.
So like it started raining and we're just kind of watching her on like Find My or Life 360 or whatever. And like finally it got so bad that she just pulled over at a gas station just south of where you connect, just south of like Creedmoor, where you
Mhm.
connect back to the 45. And she
Yeah,
just like sat there for 30 minutes while the rain passed. She goes like, up until then she'd been driving like 30 miles an hour.
dude, it gets bad. Like
Yeah.
I've never been in the. Well, that's not true. In the South, it also gets like torrential, where it's like you can't see in front of your car, and your windshield wipers cannot wipe fast enough. It's like
Yeah.
God's dumping a bucket on you.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
That was
Uh,
I was in Houston once, and we were on our way home. It was with some young men. We were on a a trip. We went and rebuilt houses following Katrina, not Katrina, following Harvey. Anyway, we were driving back and it just started dumping. And I had never understood the whole like 45 with poor visibility. And then I was
yeah,
like, oh, this is what they mean. Because you can't see a thing.
yeah,
And the poor kids in my car were like trying to talk. I'm like, no, just shut up. I just need to drive.
I know. Whenever
I'm
that
like, just
happens,
sit there quiet
it's like I need. Shh. I have to pay attention to the fact that I'm just going to hold my steering wheel straight.
and grip the wheel so tight.
Yeah, it's funny. All right,
Uh,
so here's the
okay, I'm
topic.
ready.
We're gonna go into this via a dude that I have started following. I think I might have even mentioned him on like the last episode or something. But I've
Is his
started
name
following.
Steve?
No,
Oh,
his name technically is Oliver, but the account that is on Instagram is Sailing with Phoenix. So it's this dude who had some. I can't remember the name of his. It's a spinal thing where essentially he went to the doctor and found out that something with his spine that's basically like you could be paralyzed at any moment kind of thing. And so he decided that he's like, he started getting followers because he's like, I'm going to quit my job and my corporate job. It was funny. He talked about this. He was wearing a discount tire shirt.
mm,
Like he clearly worked for Discount Tire. And he's like,
mm-hmm.
I'm quitting my corporate job and I'm going to sail. I'm going to learn to sail and sail around the world. He didn't know how to sail. So he like liquidated his 401k and bought a sailboat and he fixed it up and then learned how to sail. And he is hilariously awkward, like all the time. He's not going for anything showy. He drops his phone all the time during videos. At one point, he's like looking in close and trying to see if there, and he just keeps the filming. And sometimes we're going to be like, and he'll just stare off. He's like, yeah, okay. And he turns it off. And he's made it to Hawaii, and that's his first leg was Oregon to Hawaii, and um, he hasn't like he's posted like a few things since being in Hawaii, and he said I'm kind of taking a break. I was like, who is this guy? He went from like I started following him when there was like maybe 500,000 followers, and I was watching, and like within like a week he was like 1.5 million. I don't know what he's at now. He's probably around 2 million, and he's getting all these like all these like he's being interviewed by Anderson Cooper, uh, some cosmetic company, ELF, airdropped him a bunch of snacks because he was saying that he was running out of snacks. So they airdropped him a bunch of snacks when he got close to Hawaii. He's at 1.9 million followers, and he's so like he doesn't know what to do with it. He's like, if you see me, like when you meet me, like I'm pretty awkward, and he is, dude. Like when Becky very first heard him, and she goes, "Is that guy autistic?" I was like, he could be. He's super nice guy, but like the amount of followers he's gotten in such a short period of time. Um, like Becky's like, what is the big deal? I was like, I can't describe it, but I think this is why everyone wants to follow him is because I want to do what he's doing. Like I want to
mm.
just decide, screw this, man. I'm gonna go figure out how to sail. I'm gonna sail around the world. Like I'm gonna go see the things I want to see, and I want to, now he's got a GoFundMe that's been supporting him, but also now he sells merch He had a guy that he talked with while he's sailing from Oregon to Hawaii that started selling merch for him. Um, and then I'm sure he's getting he did a thing for Microsoft Copilot, so he got paid for that. Apparently, got more something than anybody ever had. I don't know what it was, but and I don't know how long. Like, a part of me wonders how long will I or anybody else follow him. Um, but part of it is that he's not trying to look amazing.
Right.
He's not doing anything cool. At
It
one
feels
point,
authentic.
yeah, at one point he's like, "I'm going to jump in the ocean. I'm doing what you shouldn't do." It was a very still part of the ocean. He's like, "But I'm jumping in. I'm leaving my boat. You know, like he's like, I'm just going to get in the water." He's like, "There could be sharks in there. I don't know." But then the boat kind of it rolls a little bit, and he kind of falls in. He's like, "Okay," and he jumps in. Then the next part of the video is him coming back and saying, I did not enjoy that, like, at all. Like, I felt made me feel very uncomfortable." Like, it's like, what? How's this guy getting followers? Except he is very authentic. But the point of all this, and why it's a topic today, is I've thought about a couple things. Like, I've had clients
Thought
who,
about cashing in your 401k?
oh yes, many times. Well, this is what's interesting about it. I'll say this first. Um, he has, I don't, he has his spinal thing, which freaking sucks. But he has a luxury that I don't have, which is he doesn't have kids. Like, I can't cash crap in and go sail around the world. I got kids.
Right.
Even when my
Yeah.
kids are adults, how realistic is that I do that? Like, I chose that kind of life. I chose to
I
have a
was going to
life
say it
where,
depends on the relationship you want with your
right,
kids.
and it for all I know, he wanted that kind of life too. It just didn't pan out for him. So I don't.
Sure.
But this is what the life I have. So it is not an option for me to just cash in and go. I could do that. I shouldn't say that. I could do the thing that people do sometimes on social media. It's like, we sold everything and we're living in an RV and driving around the nation with our kids. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know that I want to do that
It
either.
feels mean to the kids.
Yeah, it does. That always feels a little bit to me, especially on social media. The theory is they're doing it for their kids. I always feel like, are you doing this for a social media? Like, you just want to be a social media influencer, and your kids now are along for the ride. Which I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
don't jack your kids up like that, man. Don't make your kids. It's bad enough that kids are already on social media, but to have them, like, now there's some sort of social media icon or something.
Yeah.
Don't do that. It feels like milking your kids for money. But uh when I think about, like, I think, well, I couldn't do that. It also reminds me of when I went through the Holocaust Museum in DC. At the end, they have these displays, and I remember reading one sign. I read every single sign they had in there, like every little placard. I read it
Mm-hmm.
took me. I had to go back because they
Like I
kicked us
say,
out.
didn't they like close the first night,
Yeah,
right? You had to
yeah,
go back to
yeah.
finish.
Because I was like, this place, dude, it is a fascinating, very cool experience to go through. But at the end, they had this placard I think I've talked about a long time ago on the show that said, basically, if you didn't step in, if you didn't help, like, if you didn't stop these things from happening, hide a Jew or stop someone from beating somebody up, then you were just, like, basically you're complicit with the Nazis. And I was like, well, slow down for a second. Like, this is the question of ethics, right? Like, hey, look, this is happening. I can see this happening, but I also know that if I do this, I have a family of 5 at home. And if I step in, will I then be taken? And now my family of 5 is done for. Like, what
Right.
do I do
Especially back
then?
in the 40s where
Right.
you were likely the sole
Yeah, the only
breadwinner.
breadwinner. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like I don't, and I'm not saying it's like, who knows? Maybe I would have felt like, no, I need to step in. I don't know. But it is a weighing of things. Like, this guy has a luxury. He can do this because he doesn't have kids. And so this is where I'm tying this into some other theme that we're going to, because, man, I can't tell you, like, it feels like some sort of weird fantasy when I watch this guy's stuff. I'm like, I just want to be where you are. I've never had this. I've never had an urge to sail around the world, but I'm like, I want that so bad.
Hmm.
Uh, but I've thought about, like, because of the choices I've made, uh, and some people I'm sure would argue with this, be like, no, Rob, you can change your life at any moment. It's like, sure, but that's going to affect at least 4 other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's weighted. But I have clients who've talked about various things, and this has happened multiple times where I've had clients come in and say some version of like this specifically this topic. Like they'll say, "Look, man, I love my wife, um, but like sex is just it's always a problem for us, and she's not really interested in it. So I gave it up like 3 years ago. I don't even think about it anymore." And so they've kind of decided, because I want my wife in my life, I don't want this to be a thing, I'm going to let that go. And um, and thinking, yeah, because I wanted kids in my life and I want certain opportunities for my kids, I'm giving certain things up. I think we exist inside of a society now that is like it's funny because I was telling Becky this too when we telling her about this guy. I said, what's funny is, yeah, we all praise this guy for, sticking it to corporate America. We can't all do that. If we
Right.
all stick it to corporate America, how do we all go fund me? Like, where's your money coming from? I need you to fund me.
Right.
So it's like there's a rare few, like this guy. Honestly, I admire the guy for doing what he did. I don't know if I'd have the guts to do it. Uh, Either way, even if I didn't have kids, I think I'd feel like I'm breaking some sort of rule of life. But it also feels like um, we can't all do that. Like we have to, like becoming an adult, and even when you're a kid too, but becoming an adult means there's things I'm going to live without. And that is counter, I think, accepting that and actually thinking that may be a good thing. And that's part of what I want to talk about, is why that could actually be good. Um, Accepting it is kind of counter now to what we believe. It's even kind of counter what we believe according to our Constitution, right? Which is like, or at least capitalism. There's nothing you can't achieve if you just work hard enough. It's like there's
Mm-hmm.
some things I have to give up because there's always a trade-off. I can make so much money that it's unbelievable, I guess. But what's the cost of that? I've talked to lots of people where there's like, yeah, I could be a CEO. I remember one guy said, I'll be he's like, my next thing is CFO at this company or this, like, and if I get that, I know that I'm going to do it for about 3 years because I will not see my family basically for 3 years at this company
Hmm.
because this particular CEO does not, basically, you are at his beck and call all hours of the day and he doesn't sleep.
Hmm.
And so it means that's it. That's what but I'll do it for 3 years and then I'm out. And I've talked to some people who are like, I don't want to go that far because that throws my life out of balance. So there's always something, and there's always these choices of like, I have to give something up that I want. So having said all that, what, and maybe whatever thoughts you have about that, but also what do you think the merits are? Because I actually really believe, and this goes back to our rituals of deprivation episode, I actually believe it is good for us to go without things.
Yeah.
But we don't exist in a society anymore where it feels like that is like you're a weird sort of like you're a weirdo if you think you need to go without. And maybe even intentionally decide to go without.
That's interesting. I
Dead air,
like.
Mike. Dead airspace. It's not
I know.
good.
I know. Whatever. It's too late. This is me, right? I'm the guy on the video. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what it would be if I had my own Instagram page. Um. No, it's that idea of like. I think sometimes you are praised if the thing you're giving up is the right thing, or if you're doing it for the quote unquote right reasons.
Yeah.
But I think that, a woman who sacrifices a career um, in order to raise children
Mm-hmm.
is, I feel like, more likely to be shamed,
Right.
certainly than she would have 30 years ago.
Right.
Right. And so I think there are things that you can give up and be praised for. Like, this guy's like, yeah, I'm just going to go do without these things. And I'm going to, going to go live on a boat and sail
I'm
around the
on a
world.
boat.
And he's giving up a lot of things for that, obviously. And 2 million people think this is a great idea. Let's watch this guy. And I thought, yeah, if someone just, yeah, anyway, so that's interesting. But The thing that to me, as you were talking, that I thought of was, sorry, I have something on my shirt. ADD.
Gross. It's probably
I
a
know.
pickle.
What? Um, I don't know that I would have thought of it in terms of giving something up, although I think it certainly applies. Like I've in the last, I don't know, couple of weeks probably, I've had a handful of times where I'm interacting with clients,
Mm-hmm.
and I think, yeah, you might need to get comfortable with the idea that this is not going to turn out the way you think it's going to turn out.
Uh-huh.
Like you need to get comfortable with staying, married to your spouse means you just have to be okay with this,
Right.
whether it's, a negative trait they don't like or a level of anxiety or depression they don't like. And I think, yeah, that's just kind of what you're up for. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I never would have thought of it as giving something up, but certainly, like if I'm in a relationship with someone who is severely depressed or someone who, struggles in particular with like severe social anxiety, then I think, yeah, I'm going to have to give some stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm obviously not going to be able to go to big social outings with that person.
Yeah. Doesn't mean you
And
can't go, but with that
right,
person.
but with that person, right? Um, and so, yeah, it means some stuff's going to have to be given up. Um, and on like to me, it it just comes down to conscious, like it's conscious choice. I have to know, okay, this is what I'm giving up, because if I feel like I have no choice in it,
Right. Then you're robbed of something.
yep. And then at some point you'll start to get, some bitterness and resentment starts to creep in, resentment's what, one of the four horsemen.
Yeah. I
Um,
think so, but yeah.
and I think, yeah, like it's no good. So at some point you do have to say, no, I want the rest of this enough
No, contempt.
that I'm
Anyway, go
willing
ahead.
to give the what?
It's contempt was the one I think you're thinking
Oh,
of.
there you go. I want this thing enough to sacrifice, to give up, you know, having my wife with me at these big social events, or having, you know, or having kids. Like it's come up recently too. Someone who's like, I gave up kids for this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or they gave up as many kids as they would have wanted. Um, but I think, yeah, it's a hard thing. Um, However, in terms of benefits, I, I don't know how. Like, if someone came to you and said, "Hey, like, I love this woman and I want to marry her, but it means I'm going to have to give up kids."
That's a tricky one. I've had that multiple times.
Me too. And every time I thought, I don't actually know what to say to them. I mean, it's ultimately their decision, so that's one of the things I say is, look, this has to be your choice. I can't tell you what's the right
Right.
thing for you to do. But it is like, I guess it feels like there's two different kinds of going without. There's going
Right.
without because I think, yeah, this is going to make me a better person, or this is going to whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's going without because I don't want to risk, like, if I'm a guy and this woman, maybe she doesn't want kids at all. Maybe she has a kid from a previous marriage and doesn't want any more. Like, I don't know. Um, but I'm giving up something I don't know, right? If I've never had kids, and
Yeah.
I think, and being with this woman means not having kids, then I'm giving up something I don't know. And that's different to me.
I think
Um,
one of the things I've thought about with this, it is interesting, and we'll by the end I want to get to this idea of like here's how I think it's possible, because what I think you're right. There's two kinds of giving something up, maybe even three. I don't know. Like one is I'm giving something up I don't know, which is not really that hard. You're giving up an idea.
Right.
And so in some ways, like the Oliver, the sailing with Phoenix guy, he's giving up the idea of like the kind of standard corporate
Right.
life.
The traditional
Yeah. Which in
reach a
some
certain
ways,
age,
yeah.
retire.
And in some ways he might have felt like, what am I even doing? Like
Yeah.
this isn't the life I want. And it'd be different for me because I'm like, this is the life I want, but I also want the life he has.
Yeah.
And then there's giving up something I'm giving up something I know because I want this thing more.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's giving up something I wanted because you took it from me.
Yeah.
And I think that one has to be reframed, because that happens a lot in marriage or
Mm-hmm.
relationships. Is like, if we're not careful, then it's like I'm giving this thing up because you took it from me, or you won't give it to me, or whatever
Yeah.
it is.
You stopped my access to it.
Right. And that's where the contempt part comes in.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I was thinking about this recently, talking with somebody about actually the difference between the latter two there. I'm giving this up because I want something more than this, and I'm giving something up because it was taken from me. And even the taken from me, we can say there's like two subcategories in that. It was like, you took this from me because you won't give it to me, or you won't do it with me, or whatever it is, or um, this was taken from me because it's the natural process of life.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we still struggle with that. Like I was talking about a friend that was just a very athletic dude. No matter what he did, he was always good at it athletically. And now, as he's in his 50s, it's like you can see the desire and urge are still there, but the body is not.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has to give that up. Like there's a time at which we have to say, especially, I mean, for all of us, we'll reach a point where it's like, okay, I have to let this go because it's
Yeah.
not something I
Where
can do
our
anymore.
body or our mind simply won't.
Yeah. And that's a hard thing for a lot of us. That's why we get so angry at aging. It's like, I used to be really good at this and now I can't do it anymore. Like this band reunion we had, Schoolie, the drummer, like after playing for like an hour, he's like, my back hurts, man. We're gonna have to like take back breaks. And I was like, yeah, mine actually kind of hurts too. Like
Yeah.
I'm not used to having this guitar on me all the time. And so it feels a little off. Um, I think there's a process of allowing ourselves in that category of like aging will occur. There is a process of allowing ourselves and even being excited to say, okay, that phase of life is done. I want to see what this phase of life will be. That if I'm less athletic than I used to be, do I expand my creative talents, or do I expand my intellectual capabilities, or whatever it is, to kind of open up the possibility of like, okay, what's this next phase look like? It's kind of ridiculous that, I mean, we have a lifelong model that's basically like, pick who you're going to be now starting in high school, be that thing until you're 65 to 70, and maybe if you're lucky you'll retire early, and then just kind of hang out. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, what? How does that make sense? That it's like, this is your thing now, this is your life. And so thinking, well, how do I accept the next phase of my life? Like I've even thought, what if my practice did one day just kind of dry up? Then I think, could I look at that as like, okay, I'm being forced into something different. Like I'd have to give up something that have really loved and really enjoyed. And the day that I see my last client, I think I will feel a massive relief, but also like deeply sad at letting go of something that's been my life for so long, decades of my life. Um, but I think that's part, like, we just have to let some things go. And I think that's part of this is like, that's not something I can do, but that's okay because I want to go this direction. Because I do think that the first of the ladder, which was they take it from you, that one's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think the reframing matters, to be able to say, okay, like if it's in a marriage, why you have to recognize, first of all, by the way, that if you feel like you're giving something up, it's very likely so does your spouse.
Yeah.
Like your spouse for sure has given something up to stay with you. I mean, it's honestly one of the things that's like, I just said to a client again yesterday, having kids and being married are the two stupidest things we do as humans. They're also by far to me, the most rewarding things we will ever do as humans,
Right.
but they
And certainly
freaking
with
suck.
marriage, there's plenty of studies that show people that are married are happier.
I just read something. I'd have to pull it up. I was just reading something recently that about older adults who are married and stay married, with like they report higher levels of happiness
Yeah.
later in life. But you do have to recognize. I mean, one of the things I tell couples all the time when they're having a kid or when they're talking about having a kid, I said, look, I'm not going to lie to you. Your marital satisfaction will drop when you um, like when you have
When you
kids. You're going to
have the
go
kid.
through like a decade of like, this is not, the marriage is not exactly what we wanted it to be. Uh, but you start to look for other things. It's like, but this is, and this is different, and you enhance you. It just means you got to take a lot of work to make your marriage be what you want it to be.
Well, I was going to say, to me, it doesn't mean that your marriage won't or can't be deeply fulfilling,
Right.
but you have to approach it differently. You can't approach it the same way when you add in one, two, three, four kids.
Right.
Like
For
at
sure.
that point, like, no, we just have
Yeah.
to change the way things happen.
Well, and this is, I mean, one of the arguments I hear so often about when people don't want to have kids is that it's like, well, I want to be able to go and do the things I want to do. I want to, it's like, yeah, you're not willing to give this thing up to get this thing. Now, part of it
Mm-hmm.
is having kids is weird because before you have them, uh, it's like other people's kids is like, man, I don't know how you deal with that kid crying all the time, or that kid's annoying, or but then when you have kids, it's like, and it's super obnoxious because you can't tell somebody like, hey, let me show you, let me see if I can make you feel what you feel when you're a parent. So
Mm-hmm.
there's like, I understand, like, I don't want to give that up. It's like, yeah, but is there a bigger reason for it? Even when you take things like people who donate to churches, like in the communion, not communion plate, the you get the idea that
Donation
pa-
plate,
pass
collection
around
plate.
collection plate. There you go. Or like through tithing, like it's like, yeah. If you look at it one way, you're just giving money. You're just giving money away that you could use to go buy a jet
Right.
ski. But
Right.
if you look at another way, it's like, hey, if this is my way, I think we've mentioned this like maybe last episode. Like, if this is the way that I can worship God, if I need certain things in order to do that, I would have to pay the money to do this. This is how I do that. Like the bigger
Mm-hmm.
picture of why you're doing it would matter to say, this is why I give this up. It's worth it to me to give this up. The same thing is true if you want a super jacked body. Like you're giving up laziness, you're giving up Twinkies, you're giving up like, because I want this thing more.
Yeah.
The problem comes, and this is the reframe to me, and maybe I'm going too fast or jumping to this next part too soon, but I think this is where I think it matters to set an idea in our head of like, I want this thing more. So for example, I did have a client recently who talked about his sexual relationship with his girlfriend, and mentioned that he was giving up like the sexy sexual part of sex, not all the time, but because he wanted to figure out how to have more intimate, connected, meaningful
Mm.
sex. And he said, I think to me that means I have to give up this thing that's been really fun for me, like the really sexualized part of sex. It's getting in the way of me actually connecting with this person. And so sometimes it is figuring out, okay, if I gave this part up, if my wife or my spouse says I don't want to have sex anymore, um, then it's like, okay, well then how do I create this other kind of connection that I'm looking for?
Yeah.
That actually, in some ways, could be even better. I'm not saying give up sex, guys, but I think it just forces our brain to kind of say, okay, how do I adapt to this? Like you teach your brain how to adapt, and when you know how to go without, then it's fine. Schoolie the drummer, he talked. I think I mentioned this last time that he talks about how he was just freaking broke and poor forever. And he's like, because he's like, now I feel like it's okay. I know how to do that. If I have to do that again, I can. So now he's not worried about taking some of the risks he takes in the business realm because he's like, it's okay. I know how to go back there. Then
Mm-hmm.
you learn how to trust yourself in a different way that says, I know how to do this. That's what's cool about this sailing guy is that he's out on the boat and he has to figure it out. Like his rudder broke. And so I got to figure this out. So he's, like he knows how to get through stuff like that now. If you don't learn to go without things, then I think you never really learn what your capacity is. It was deep. Nothing like declaring yourself deep. It's like thumbs upping your own text, which
Which we have a
Marianne
sister who
does.
does that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote it. Let me just thumb it up real quick. No, and it is like I do think there's a lot, like going back to the idea of needing to reframe the loss of certain things. I think it's very important to understand what it is we get from it in the first place.
Right.
Like I asked someone the other day, like, what is it you're trying to communicate through sex?
Mm-hmm.
Like, understand what it is you're wanting your spouse to know.
Yeah.
Or with the guy who, like the guy that you mentioned that was, extremely athletic, and you're watching him get into his 50s and his body just won't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, so what is it like? What was it about that?
Right.
You know, like, yeah, if it was just you loved the endorphins that came from whatever, well, you can still get those.
Well, that's a good
Um,
point because this guy actually he just loves the nature of competition. So he makes everything a competition, but is
right.
always very like he is the kindest competitor. He's
Yeah.
so encouraging, but he just loves the game. So he may not be the top of the game, but he doesn't need to be because that's
Right.
not what
He
he
just
got from
wants
it.
the competition.
Right.
Yeah. And again, right, like he spent time obviously understanding, oh, this is the thing that I miss.
Yeah.
I miss that this was a very natural part of playing sports. Is sport is always a competition, whether it's, fighting for position on the team and what string you are, or whether it's um, the actual competition of game. And so I think there is that idea of like looking, saying, well, what is it I'm getting from these things? One, so that we better understand what we're losing. Like I do think there is something. Um, I was talking to a kid the other day, and he's like 12, and he's like,
Just some random kid on the street.
"Yep, I just met him the other day. It's cool. We were at Target." No,
Hey,
but
little
this.
boy, what are you doing? Where's your parents, little boy?
um, no, but this he was talking. He just says, I don't like change. And I said, well, why not? And he goes, I don't know. And he says, I just know I don't like change. And I thought, well, good for you for knowing the first part, but I need you to kind of figure out what it is you don't like. Um, and I said, and I need you to kind of own the fact that you don't like change. And he's like, well, how does it do me any good to acknowledge that I don't like it? And I'm like, I don't know how to explain. I said, but it does. Like there's something freeing about acknowledging, yeah, I don't like this. And it's not, and I was trying to get him to separate, right? Like I wanted him to separate the emotion from the reaction that followed. Like, no, there's nothing wrong with the emotion, dude. Go ahead. Don't like change. That's fine. Change can make you angry all day long. I don't care. And I said, that's not the thing you need to change. The thing you need to change is the action that follows. But I think there is that, looking at these things that we're giving up and saying, I don't like giving it up. I like this about it.
Right.
There is like movies are the worst. I can't go into a movie and like, I'm like, all right, I need popcorn and Coke. Like those, I rarely want candy. I don't care about candy in a movie. I want popcorn and Coke. That's it. That's all I want. Which when I'm trying to be healthier, not a great combination because it's like, oh, stupid. But again, it's understanding like, okay, well, what is it I like about that? Like, what is it, let me
Right.
understand why, what the appeal is. Is there any other way to get it? I think that becomes a significant part of the reframe, at least.
I agree. Like I think I think it's just hard. Like I think what's kind of funny about some of these things we're talking about, even if we talk about sex, for example, especially inside of a committed relationship or inside of a marriage, I think we do start to feel entitled to it.
Yeah.
And so it feels like contrary to the natural order of things to
Mm-hmm.
say go without this thing. It's like that's like saying go without food. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, you can go without a lot of food actually. I had a client telling me the other day that he's like, dude, I know how to be poor. He's like, there was a period of time in my life where I'd open a can of corned beef hash. He's like, and I would eat about a third of it. I would make that one can last 3 days. He's like, that's all I'd eat that day. I'd eat a third of a can of corned beef hash. He's like, it was fine. He's like, now I still eat it. I just have it with toast and eggs and some sausage. And I was like, yeah, get it. but like, I think that's the interesting part is, and this is actually some of the things I worry about sometimes with what we teach the next generation, like we talked about a little bit last time too, is are we teaching them to value like I do think we should be teaching them like this sailing with Phoenix guy. I think, yeah, it's cool to teach your kids, hey, look, if there's something you really want, like go pursue it. Try hard to go get it. Risk things. Be brave and do things. But we're also teaching them you can do whatever you want, and someone will just give you money to make that happen. And I think,
Yeah.
for every sailing with Phoenix guy, there's 1,000. In fact, when I started following him, I got a whole bunch of other people sailing around the world, a husband and wife, and they're all cute and attractive and on their boat, and they have far fewer followers,
Yeah.
and they've been doing it far longer. But it's kind of interesting. I wonder if they're like totally pissed at him, like stupid, or I'm going to try to get Sailing with Phoenix on our podcast. I'm going to DM him and be like, hey, do you want to be on a podcast about men?
He probably totally would.
I know he's done. It's us and Anderson Cooper, same
Yeah.
level basically.
It'd be super fascinating to hear what this guy has to say about manhood, masculinity, and stuff.
I would be curious to. Anyway, so maybe I'll reach out to him. Who knows?
Seriously. First thing he says is no.
Yeah, I nothing. I mean, it's just like when I reached out to Mike Rowe and nothing happened.
Yeah.
That hurts more, Mike. Rowe, not you.
I know.
Anyway, where was I even going with this? I got way off. Oh, what we're teaching our kids. Like, I worry sometimes that we teach our kids to value like what you want is a lot of followers. And that's how you'll know you've done a good job, because you've been successful that way. And you can, there's so many kids now that believe like, well, I can do what I want. Like I can do what I love and make money at it. What do you love? I want to play video games. It's like, yeah, we all love video games. You're probably not actually, that's actually a ton of work too, to actually be successful. And there's a ton of work in it.
Yeah.
And the percentage is so low of being, it's just like when kids, I feel bad about this. I sometimes feel like I've crushed my kids' dreams. It's like, I want to be an actor. It's like, no, you don't. You're not going to make any money. Don't do that. Become an engineer.
When I was a teacher,
yeah,
like
it's part of my
inevitably,
job, right?
Yeah, inevitably, I would tell the kids like, "Okay, I want you to, write about a career you want to have," and I would right off the bat say, "I don't want to hear about actors and athletes."
Yeah,
and they would ask me why not, and I would with one class, I actually ran through. I said, how many guys are on a high school football team? How many guys are on a college football team? How many guys are on a and this, and how many high schools are there and how many colleges are there? And I said, and there's only 32 NFL teams and they each have 53 people on the roster. And I'm like, so do that math. That's 1,500 people. And I'm like, there are more football players in high school in Texas than there are in the entire NFL.
Yeah, but what they probably
you're going to make it.
But what they probably heard was 1,500. That's a lot.
I know.
But But this is what it's kind of funny because Becky and I talked about this too. These questions that are for like GRE prep stuff. That's like, um, kind of like, should a government, if it has citizens that are hungry and underfed, should it be giving money to the arts if that's the case?
Mm.
And so an argument either way, right? And thinking it is kind of, we talked about this idea of like, why would the arts be necessary? And I thought it was an interesting conversation to have about if you subtract like the creativity and hope and beauty in things, you end up basically creating, sometimes I think, a generation full of people or a society full of people that are just like, we don't know how to interact with people because we only learned how to think analytically. We only know how to do math problems. We only know how to do like too much STEM and not enough anything else,
Yeah. Yeah.
which means creativity is going to die off. So in some ways, it's kind of this weird balance of like, I want to be this Sailing with Phoenix guy, and I'm glad there are people like him out there. He did give stuff up, to be clear, to do what he's doing. He had to give up a lot of security and stability to go do this. He sold everything he had to do this, and it could have totally blown up in his face. And it could still
It
that he'll
could
do this
still.
for. It could be, yeah, he could do it for 2 years and then it falls apart and he has no more money, or it could be that he does this for 2 years and his boat sinks. I don't know.
It could be that he gets caught in a bad storm one day,
Right. And
and
so
that's it.
right. So he's clearly giving stuff up to
Yeah.
do this. And that's the part I think I do like that part. And I don't ever want to tell kids don't follow creativity. Like I've tried to tell my kids, hey man, pursue acting if you want to, but also like learn business, like learn these other elements so that it's like, hey, I do this while I'm trying to do this other thing. Um, Now that's the practical part of me that's like, dude, you have to support yourself.
Well, and that's when Macy was first getting ready for school and trying to determine a major. She was asking what should I major in, and like we've always given our kids the same, like, well, what interests you?
Right.
And really, I tell all my kids, I'm like, you don't need to make the decision for like 2 more years.
Right.
Like you can make the decision of what you want to major in after you have your associate's degree. Just earn the associate's degree and then go from there. Um, but she was talking with her girlfriend one day, and her girlfriend was like, no, you need to, like, you have to feel passionate about the thing you study, and you have to like absolutely love it. Like you should only pursue the thing. And I thought, and I full on told her, I said no. And she goes, what do you mean no? And I said, look, I love literature. And I said, but frankly, it's kind of a worthless degree for me, for most people. Like, yeah, it was cool. I read a lot of books, taught me how to, like, I use things I learned for sure. But in terms of providing for my family, it was a terrible degree. And so I said, no, like, I'm not saying you can't. And I said, but you have to think about what is it you want to accomplish with this thing?
Right.
Because if you're going into it in the hopes of being, like famous, if I'm going to be an actor, yeah, statistically speaking, that's a
Probably
long
not.
shot.
Right. If it's just
I'm
something you love,
what?
nothing. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so like if I'm going into it because I want to be a millionaire, I mean, maybe you can, depending on the field, right? But if I know I want to be able to provide for my family, okay, well, then make some decisions. You're
Well,
going to
and
have
this,
to give some stuff up. And if you choose to, like, I chose to teach, not the most lucrative career, certainly a stable one, but not very lucrative at all. And I think, yeah, I had to give, and by default, my children and wife had to give up certain things to allow me to do that for as long as I did.
right.
And so it's like, no, that it came like I had to give up things to make that happen. I didn't have, like there were a lot of years we just couldn't afford the 2-day drive to family reunions in Utah because my salary and, just didn't work out. So it was like, yeah, I gave up things in order to continue in this career.
Right. Well, that's what I think I do think there's something to be said for like you can learn to be passionate and love what you do.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be that you follow the passion. Sometimes it's like you create the passion. I think that's
Yeah.
the nature of like, I'm going to give something up because at some point, sailing around the world for this guy may become like monotonous.
Yeah.
I
A
don't know.
chore.
Um, yeah. And he'll feel like, I hate doing this. I just want to be on land longer.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like, I think that's my like take home message of this is kind of like learning to, for things that it kind of sometimes involuntarily give up. We all, I mean, if you think through, you think, oh, I gave this up or this up, like my wife doesn't this or this, or my husband doesn't this or this. It's like, yeah, okay, well, you have to reframe that. Like, what am I getting instead, and what am I trying to create here? So this
Mm-hmm.
is what I want. And how do I create that? Like, because I do think, um, I think reframing is really important. Like the perceptions we have in our minds. I love reading things about the way the brain works and how it will automatically categorize things for us. And because of what you've seen previously, this is how it will categorize this thing.
Oh, freaking loves a pattern.
And so being able to say, hey, wait, what if there's a different way to look at this? Would that change the way that we give something up? Um, I've had conversations with clients that said, look, if I had married somebody else, I would have some of the things that I've given up with my wife, but I'd give up too many of the things that I want with my wife. And I'm not willing to do that. And I was never like, I knew what I wanted with my wife. Some things I didn't know I was going to get, and some things I didn't get that I thought I wanted. But that's okay. Like I create the passion for it that I want for it. And that's the same thing I think with, I have a friend who used to do this. I mentioned him a long, long time ago on the podcast. He used to do this, but then decided I can be happy doing anything. So he went and became a nurse anesthetist because he makes way more money. He's like, honestly, I don't feel any less fulfilled. And this way I have a lot more time with my family. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I actually think it's helpful to look at things. Like I have actually felt lately like I am too self-indulgent. Like I give myself whatever I want,
Mm.
kind of whenever I want it. And I feel like I started to feel like I was getting a little depressed. And we talked about this on the deprivation episode. It felt like even with soda, it's like, do I even like this anymore? Like I drink it all the time. Do I even look forward to it anymore? It's like air now.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to like, sometimes I think it's valuable to decide I'm going to give some of these things up because I want something different for myself, but always keep in mind what you want for yourself. Otherwise you're going to focus on what you're giving up.
Yeah.
And that's painful. But I also think look for things you've already given up and recognize why you've given them up. I think that helps reframe things so you don't feel resentful. Like I gave it up because I wanted this thing more. And the generic one in marriage is like, I gave this up because I wanted my spouse more. It's like,
Well,
well, that's a nice, easy one.
and I think there's a lot to be said for seeing that you've done it as testament that you can.
Right. That
Like
you,
I talking to that kid and he's like, oh, I just can't do it. And I said, well, that's not true.
right.
And he goes, well, what do you mean? I said, well, you're here, aren't you? And I'm like, so clearly you've dealt with change many, many times
Right.
because you're sitting here talking to me about it and how much you don't like it.
Right.
And I'm like, so yeah, you can do it. You just don't like doing it. He goes, okay.
Yeah.
And
That's,
it's that same idea of like, no, like it is going to be hard. And I'm a big believer on focusing. Like I've been pushing over the last probably 6 months to a year with clients when I talk to them about making changes. Don't focus on the thing you're losing. Focus on the thing you're gaining.
yeah.
Um, if you want a new habit, don't focus on, well, I have to start going to bed earlier. No, that's giving up something. And I said, just focus on, no, I want to be able to do this.
Right.
Right.
That's,
And if I focus on that, then cool. I want to go to sleep because I want to make sure I have energy to get up and do this thing.
yeah. And the same thing is true with couples that I talk about, where it's like, don't give me a negatively framed goal because then all you're going to be
Right.
telling me is I can still see it. It's like, of course you can. It's never going to be gone 100%.
Right.
Look for the thing you want to have developed and start developing it. So,
Yeah.
in short, space mateys, go get your inner sailboat on
Space mateys.
and recognize what you're giving up or give something up and become better men. And catch us next time on the Man Space. No soup for you.